Hello, hi, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I think this thing is on. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello. Lion's Heart, nice to see you. Aaron Gray, always a pleasure. Welcome to the stream. We have a lot to talk about today. There's Illinois had their primary last night, and a few other places did as well. And I want to talk about the results from some of the races there. I think it paints a pretty telling picture, but it's a little more well, let me just say this. Yesterday, a lot of progressives, the people who are to the left on the Democratic Party, okay, the more far left people, the Hassanites and some of the more moderate leftist people, right, the squad, if you will, they went all in on a few candidates for the Illinois primary. They were looking to have a Democratic Tea Party moment where they wanted to show that the corporate elites, they wanted to show those moderates, they wanted to really stick it to the establishment, right? And show that the Democratic base is longing for change, that they want different leadership, that they want different candidates, that they want a different style of politics. Every single one of their candidates lost. To varying degrees. Some were very close, to be clear. And I'm talking about in primaries that had a contest. And so what I mean by that, there's a few who won because they were running unopposed, because no one contested them. But when you had any sort of contest, any kind of opponent, they lost. But we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to analyze it because the picture is more muddy than you might think. Because none of the, so for example, one of the big ones that a lot of people were following was Illinois District 9, which had a very broad field. There was 6 major candidates, and a lot of people were really kind of fighting over who would be the representative there. But all the candidates, pretty much, at least the top 3, were very much the same on most issues, right? They were all progressive to an extent. But the Justice Democrats and a few others, Progressive Victory, my old people I worked with, right? And a few others went all in on one of the candidates. Kat, I can't pronounce her last name. I'm sorry. And we're going to show it on screen and you can read it, right? She did fairly well, but she ultimately lost to the candidate Biz. I don't know how to say his name. They tried everything to get this guy, right? They put out Me Too allegations against this guy. Really weird Me Too allegations. Apparently, when he was 26, he made out with someone who was 21, and he got to second base. And I guess it was consensual and everything, and then they broke it off. But they tried to Me Too him over that. And I don't know how he ever survived the accusations that he kissed a girl once, but he pulled it off, and he won his district seat. Okay. We're going to get into all that. We're going to get into everything. It will be quite the show today. And I want to talk about what this means for the future of the Democratic Party and what the voter wants, and to the extent that it can tell us, right? It's always a risk to look into local politics and then try to extrapolate too far out of that. But there are some things that we can learn from this experience. And look, I said it before and I'll say it again. It's something that words you should live by. Stop listening to people who are always wrong. So when you have people who claim that the progressive side of the Democratic wing is ascendant, that they are going to win all the races, that they are going to be successful, that the momentum is behind them and the wind is at their back, and if only the corporate Democrats would get out of their way, right, they would be ascendant, right? They would be victorious. and then they lose across the board, you have to kind of just ignore what those people who are telling you that say in the future. You kind of do. They have an agenda, they're pushing an agenda, and they're not telling you the truth. They're trying to reshape the narrative, and that's a different thing. But we're going to get into it, right? Zephyr Hash for $5. But Wick, last I checked, Mamdani and Bernie polling well means every progressive candidate will win their elections. Well, that is something that they are saying, and they are claiming, but it is not true. Look, Mamdani was an unlikely win. A lot had to happen for him to get the victory. It was a very local race. The candidates he was facing were uniquely terrible. Mamdani seems fine-ish, I guess. He's moderating himself. I do find it weird how they ask him a bunch of geopolitical questions, right? They asked him recently about what he feels about Irish unification. Motherfucker, he's a mayor of New York City. Why does it matter what he feels about Irish unification? That has nothing to do with his job. That has nothing to do with how he's going to govern, right? He should be focused on the people of New York City, not the people of Ireland. Who cares what his thoughts are on foreign matters such as that? Look, to his credit, he said, I don't know. He says, I don't know enough about the subject to really talk about it, which speaks well of him, right? But this constant need to ask local politicians foreign policy questions to kind of litmus test them is odd to me. It's odd. Even if I didn't like his foreign policy stances, he doesn't have any, he has no influence over our foreign policy. Concluding postscript says, Rashida Tlaib tweeted in support of United Ireland, i.e. taking territory from a NATO member, giving to a non-NATO country. Look, I don't know enough about Ireland to really speak to it. I couldn't give you a good take on if I support or I do not support United Ireland. I haven't really researched it at all. It's not come up in my podcasting and in my research, and it's frankly something I have very little interest in, right? It doesn't affect me. Maybe the right thing is to have a United Ireland. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't know the facts of the matter. I couldn't give you a good take on this. But people demanding some local politician have a take on these foreign policy matters is wild, in my opinion. And we shouldn't demand this. We shouldn't demand loyalty to Israel from people in New York City, right? Like from the New York City mayor. But nor should we demand condemnation of Israel from the New York City mayor. Neither of these things should be a question we ask the New York City mayor, or should prevent you or commend you to being a local political figure. I don't think it should matter. But to a lot of people, it does. And so they ask them. And so it becomes messy. $5 from Zephyr Hash to say, Mamdani has made some really stupid statements regarding Muslims in India. He will be cooked at any election above state level for that reason. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what he said, right? Now on to Dune. We're going to get to Dune. Don't worry. The trailer is out. Have you guys seen the new Dune trailer? I think it's great. I'm worried. If I showed you guys the trailer, would I get copyright struck? Would they do that? I don't want to get copyright struck. I can describe it. I'm actually not sure the rules on that. Give me 1 second, please. But I want to talk about But what does the trailer say about reunification of Ireland? Look, there's a lot of people when the first Dune and the second Dune came out. I believe the second Dune especially because it came out right around that time, right, with the October 7th stuff. There's a lot of people who are saying, well, the Fremen are just like the Palestinians. Okay, the Fremen are just like the Palestinians. They're fighting for their freedom, like Hamas. And anyone who's familiar with the book series found that very, very funny for a few reasons. So I guess overall, trying to tie a sci-fi series written in the 60s to the stuff happening right now in Israel-Palestine, kind of foolish in my opinion. Overall, why are you tying these things together? They're not related. The author did not intend for them to be related, etc. But also, and spoilers if you're worried, look, the book's been out for 60 years, okay? At this point, the statute of limitations on spoilers has passed. Letting the Fremen out of Dune, of Iraq from Arrakis, led to billions of deaths, a whole jihad that killed whole planets in this religious scourge that fell across the galaxy, okay? So to pretend as if the Fremen are the Palestinians and try to equate those two things, bro, it was a really bad idea to let the Fremen free in the galaxy. Really, really bad idea. The whole point of the Dune series, at least according to Frank Herbert, who wrote the Dune series, was to showcase the dangers of a messianic figure, right? The dangers of religious zealotry and a chosen one hero that is pedestaled, lifted up, and shown to be the great liberator. So yeah. Parallax, thank you for the tier 1 sub on Twitch. It's 39 months? You are an embarrassment to your family, but it's okay. To my family, you are a hero, okay? A messianic figure that we have been warned about. Zephyr Ash says more companies are open to trailer reactions, but YouTube still dings first and asks questions later. Yeah, that's why I don't know if we're going to watch the actual trailer, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about a lot of people are very big mad. I guess since we're on the subject, I guess we can cover this first. A lot of people are still really big mad about Zendaya. Zendaya, I don't know how to say her name. You know what I'm talking about. This actress being cast in the role of Chani. Okay. So this is what they say. From Severus Chud. Ironically, has a picture of Severus Snape in a baseball cap. Fun. Says, I'm sorry, but this is the most ridiculous shit ever. Race-swapping Chani has killed all immersion in Dune. Arrakis and the Fremen were never written as a melting pot. Frank Herbert gave them clear ethnic logic. Changing Chani's heritage breaks the story. The Fremen culture and internal world consistency. You destroyed that world when you chose tokenism over storytelling. Dune deserves a better adaptation. Raise your hand if you've read the books. Okay. Who here has read the books? Read Dune. Anyone? One's in chat if you read. Two's in chat, whatever. Megalodom says no, but I know what happens already. Hood Monkey says, oh, who the hell cares? People got mad at the guy who played Brooks in One Piece for live action for being black. Parallax says, no, I speak to women. Cowboy has. Cowboy's read it. Hood Monkey has read it. Look, in the books, Fremen are descended from slaves who were taken over the course of a bunch of worlds across the galaxy. Okay. They were taken and they were seeded by the Imperials in different planets. And the last planet they got seeded on was Arrakis in Dune to harvest spice. Okay. They were from all over, right? All over the galaxy. They were Zen Sunni wanderers. Okay. And again, Dune synergizes and combines a lot of religions. There's a whole history behind it. We don't need to get into it, but a lot of things are combined, right? And that's on purpose. The idea that on a desert world that there would not be dark-skinned people, black people, is nowhere to be found in the history of Dune, in the book. It does not matter. The only descriptors given of the Fremen are that they had leathery skin that was darkened by the sun, and they had the men had beards and stuff, and they were scrawny. Okay, very scrawny, like sinewy. No, scrawny is probably the wrong word, but sinewy, like very thin, right? Very fit. That's the only descriptors. They don't talk about them being of a single race as we understand races, right? That wasn't really mentioned. And in the books, Chani, the character that Zendaya is playing, is described with elfin features and having tawny red hair. And you could say, well, she doesn't have red hair. And that's fair. But if you look at the picture that he's posting as someone who would be a better fit, they also do not have red hair. And her red hair is not the important bit of the story, right? Like, that's not the important part of her character. Now, you can have criticisms of Chani and how she's written in the movies. In the Villeneuve, I don't know how to say his name, the director, right? The director who's doing the new Dune series, right? He changes Chani from how she acts in the book and what she acts like in the movies. They're different. They're very, very different. In the book, she's very much a simp. She's very much one of Paul's, the main character's, biggest supporters, believers, right? He is the God Emperor. He is the chosen one. She's very much his simp in a lot of ways. In the movies, it's different. She's very much against him. She doesn't like the direction that he's taken the Fremen in, right? It's a big departure from how she's written in the books. Now, there are reasons for this, right? But I think it's okay to criticize the movie because it departs in this way. But this, again, has nothing at all to do with her race or her ethnic origin. This idea that Frank Herbert gave them clear ethnic logic, I think, as it says in this tweet, it doesn't. If you've read the book, you know this is bullshit, right? Changing Chani's heritage breaks the story. In no way does it break the story. Her being dark-skinned, her being light-skinned, her looking purple does not matter. It's not the important bit of her character. It has nothing to do with how she looks. And frankly, Zendaya fits how a Fremen looks in my mind, or one of the ways a Fremen could look in my mind. This might also work if they scuffed her up a bit, right? Like they made her more leathery and shit like that. But with makeup and shit, that can work. Or you could absolutely make that play out well. But like this race baiting that they do. And to be clear, this is race baiting. This is trying to gin up controversy. This is trying to gin up anger at the movie and at the director for tokenism because they're replacing a white person with a black person. And that's just not what happens here. They are purposefully trying to, and it's working, to be clear. He's got like 9,000 likes on this bullshit, right? So it is working. Yeah, it's frustrating. They don't understand the stories They don't understand, like, cinema, and they're claiming that this tokenism is destroying Dune. Yeah, kinetic pause. The Zen Sunni mixed with many peoples in their long travels. It was, I don't know if the melting pot's the right word, but there was their racial makeup was not homogenous by any means at all. It's just it's wild to me. But this is so profitable and it's destroying us. Look, I'm going to be real with you. There are times, right, where Hollywood does some weird race bullshit, right, where they switch characters' races for kind of tokenistic reasons. You can all point to shows or movies or stories where they've done that to pander or appeal to a certain group. Yeah, I'll give you that. That happens. This ain't that, though. And one of the things that has melted people's brains, right? One of the things that has really destroyed people's ability to, I guess, have conversations about these things is they see it everywhere where it doesn't exist. They're fighting ghosts, right? Because it's so profitable. If you can find tokenism or wokeism in a book, movie, or story, or an adaptation of the kind, a lot of people will just gobble your nuts and pay you a lot of money. Oh, this video game has a black character in it. Woke. This movie, there's a black person playing a role that 20 years ago was played by a white person. Woke. Denzel Washington's playing Hamlet or fucking Macbeth. Woke. But they don't understand that in these stories, many of them, the racial makeup does not matter. It does not matter if Zendaya plays Chani or if Sydney Sweeney played Chani, as long as Chani works within the story and is true to the character. Now, again, you can criticize all day long because this director decided to write Chani differently than is in the books, but not by how she looks, but how she behaves. Now, the reason, in my opinion, why Chani works in the movies, and I think works really well, even though she behaves like 180 different than how she behaves in the book, is because in the book, if you read, Paul struggles with his destiny, okay? He has a gift of like prophecy, gift of foresight, right? He sees what's going to happen and he knows what he has to do, right, in order to make it happen. And he knows that no matter what he does, a version of that is going to happen. And he feels like a lot of inner turmoil about some of the actions he takes, especially in the later books, right? He feels a lot of inner struggle. And that's showcased in the books through inner monologues, right? You get a real look into his head, and you can see that struggle play out on the page. That's hard to do in movies, right? It's hard to showcase kind of like the existential struggle that you're having, especially in a story like Dune, right? In a movie format, it's in a visual format. It's just really hard to do. So what the director has decided is he decided to make Chani, instead of being a simp, to make Chani like the outward expression of that inner turmoil and their inner struggle. So instead of you seeing him arguing with himself, he's arguing with Chani. And you can say that you don't like that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a stylistic choice and subjective in a lot of ways. I thought it worked well. You might not, and that's fair. But none of that has to do with her race. And I'm just tired of these race-baiting grifters. I just am. I'm just tired of it. Look, instead of having that conversation, I have to talk about how these people are making a lot of money, getting people mad that there's a brown person on a desert world in the future. Oh no, a far future desert world has a brown woman in it. Oh no, as if that was some sort of genre-breaking, story-destroying choice by the director. That's insane. And anyone who believes that is fucking insane. These people are stupid. On a real level, base level, they're stupid. They're just stupid. And they're mean, too. They're mean and stupid. $5 from Zephyr Hash. If I'm not able to call in, Dune Messiah, in my opinion, is even harder to adapt than the first book. If it succeeds, it'll be one of the best film trilogies ever. Yeah, I mean, look, Messiah is a bit of a slog to read. I am curious to see how it will be adapted to the film, medium. We'll see. We'll see. The movie might suck, but the first two didn't. The first two were amazing. I liked them a lot. And yes, there were departures, not just in the character of Chani, especially at the end of the second movie. It differs quite a bit from what happened in the book. And I'm really curious to see where they go with it, right? We'll see, I guess. AKA Batozai says, oh, sorry, billions. Kinetic Paw says, Sinners should have won for Best Picture. African-American business owners versus commie vampires was great. Look, Sinners was all right. I think Sinners was overhyped, honestly. It was good. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the movie. But from the way people talked about it, it was like the best thing since sliced bread. And I watched it, and it was good. But the best thing since sliced bread? Nah. I think it was just like overhyped. That's it. That's it. Do I have any callers yet? So this is a call-in show, just to let you guys know. Let me give you the link to the server. I'll pin that link. And so how this works, gang, I'll do it in Twitch too. So how this works is you click that link, you accept the rules, you jump backstage. When we're ready, we'll pull you in to talk to you, right? And we'll have a discussion about whatever you like. It doesn't have to be about what we're talking about today. It could be something else that you've heard that you really want to discuss. But yeah, the floor is yours and the floor is open. In the meantime, let's dive a little bit more into the results of the 2026 Illinois primary election. Let's read an article from Axios. Okay, we're going to get to it. We're going to go through it. Oh, let's adjust some of my things so you can see it a bit better. The squad suffers complete wipeout in Illinois. That's her name. Abu Ghazala? You see it right here. Anyway, she lost. Okay. The left suffered a virtually total collapse in the Illinois Democratic congressional primaries on Tuesday night, even in races where the AIPAC-backed candidate lost. Why it matters. It's a bad sign for the dozens of insurgent Democrats running in congressional races across the country, both in open seats and as primary rivals to older, more establishment-oriented incumbents. It's great news for House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is most popular among the moderate and mainstream liberal wings of the party. Most of the Democratic House candidates who have refused to commit to supporting Jeffries for leader or speaker are leftist insurgents. Driving the news. Kat Abu Ghazala, I hope I'm saying that right, a left-wing influencer and journalist backed by Justice Democrats and the Sunrise Movement, lost to Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss in the closely watched race in Illinois' 9th District. Biss and Abu Ghazala were both opposed by AIPAC whose proxy-elect Chicago woman spent millions in support of pro-Israel state senator Laura Fine, who came in third. But AIPAC pivoted in the final week of the campaign to focusing its fire on the more pro-Palestinian Abu Ghazala than Biss, who was backed by the Congressional Progressive Caucus and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Another AIPAC affiliate, Chicago Progressive Partnership, ran ads painting Abu Ghazala as a closet Republican and boosting a lower-tier leftist in the race, Bushra Amiwala. So let's go over this. So a lot of the online chatter, at least, was about how corporate Democrats are captured by Israel and the establishment Democrats are destroying the Democratic Party. Like, they're destroying our election chances. That if only they would get out of the way, these progressive, more left candidates would ride the wave of momentum that they're experiencing, pro-Palestinian momentum in the party to victory. That was the argument, right? Or that is the argument still from many sources, right? It's just not true. It just didn't happen. Now, again, none of the candidates, at least in the 9th district, were what I would consider crazy. Even Kat, right? I have nothing against her as a candidate. I thought some of her takes were cringe, right? I think some of her rhetoric is cringe, but she didn't have any positions that I would consider disqualifying, right? She's no Plattner. She doesn't have a secret Nazi tattoo, at least to my knowledge, right? She's just kind of cringe. But she's got some really good positions on Ukraine and on Taiwan that people like Ryan Grimm, and we're going to get that up real quick. Let me back up a little bit. So one of the issues that Kat Abu Ghazala had in the final days running up towards election was she was on a podcast, I forget which one, and she mentioned something about she thinks that America should defend Taiwan if China tries to invade it. Okay. Easy enough stance, pretty basic. Once again, I don't know why they're asking her foreign policy questions, but whatever, right? I'm not sure if she was running for Congress or Senate or whatever, but they ask her this. And she says, I think a fairly reasonable answer, yeah, if China tried to defend or tried to invade and take over Taiwan, I think we should defend it. The left, such as Ryan Grimm here, ate her alive for that. They dogged on her. They called her an imperialist. All sorts of wild comments. Very, very inappropriate comments, in my opinion. Like, it was kind of crazy to see the hate that she got for a pretty ice cold take. So after she lost, of course, Ryan Grimm comes up and says, "You cannot consolidate the progressive vote today while saber-rattling war with China. That era is over." Now, what Ryan Grimm fails to understand, well, there's a few things. One, the idea that her answer about Taiwan had any influence over this election does not play out in what you look at when it comes to exit polls, why people voted how they did. It just didn't have an impact either way. And two, the person who did win, the progressive Daniel Biss, is also pro-China, or not pro-China, pro-Taiwan and pro-Ukraine. Like, he has the exact same foreign policy stances. And that's the real kind of kicker here, is all three of these people had almost the same stances. Like, almost the same stances on everything. There was a couple places they differed, but it was mostly about Israel-Palestine, right? Kate Kat here was super pre-Palestine. Daniel Biss was, he calls himself a progressive Zionist. Whatever that means. I'm not exactly sure. And then Laura Fine was the more Zionist candidate. Okay. But there was very little daylight between their other positions. And no one here, like no one serious, suggests that the guy who won Biss, right, had substantively different takes on what America should do when it comes to China than Kat Abu Ghazala or even Laura Fine. Like their positions on this were all pretty much in a row, right? There was very little daylight. And the idea that if Kat had had a different answer on that question, that she might have rided a wave to victory, it just doesn't play out. There's just no evidence that that's the case. But, you know, people make it their pet issues, and everything must be decided on their pet issues, and so here we are. I don't know. It's just they keep pushing a narrative that keeps not being true, and they keep asking to be taken seriously. When do we stop? When do we stop taking these people seriously? It should be today. Today. We should stop today. The best time to not take Ryan Grimm and his ilk seriously was when they first came on the scene. The second best time is today. Don't listen to people who are continuously wrong. It's okay to miss now and again. Everyone does. But when you're always wrong, it calls your credibility into question. I don't know. We got a caller, so we're going to bring in the caller. We're going to talk, and we're going to yap. It'll be great. Hello, you're live.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
You know, we're here. We're doing my thing. What do you got for us?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm muting your stream at the moment. I just had one thing. I was actually listening to your streams for a little while now, for the last couple of weeks. And one I had a particular question, if you don't mind me asking, was about
Go
the
for it.
ought we follow international law?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, for the most part, I thought you did pretty well there. But there was a kind of a couple iffy things I was wondering if we could talk about, like that I kind of talked to you in DMs about.
Sure.
The I kind of have to work backwards here just a little bit, because at the end of the stream, when the panel opened up, one of the first questions you got asked was the definition of ought. Um, do you remember what you said there?
Should. Ought we do something? Should we do something? Right?
Okay, and I think that's where I sort of have a little bit of contention with you, if you don't, because it's not that your answer is wrong. It's that more of like when I hear ought, I hear an idea of like there's a compulsion for an obligation or duty to doing something to that should.
Well,
It's almost a
well,
stronger should.
if I can rephrase that a little bit, are you saying that if an ought implies a reason, we ought do it? Like there's a reason we ought follow international law.
Well, I mean, anytime we talk of an
Yeah.
ought, I believe that there is like a compulsion to like duty or obligation.
Yeah, an obligation, a duty, a reason, in other words.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Well, the reason why I was saying that is because it when I if I would just left that as should, some of the things you said earlier on in the conversation made sense. But when I apply an obligation or a sense of like a duty or a reason, um, one of the things that you kept saying was, "I don't care where the ought comes from. An ought it still exists, therefore we should." But then I would also question, okay, well, if there is an obligation or reason that's compelling us to act, should we not question that reason?
Well, yeah, it's fine to question that reason. That was the whole thing. Like the answer to that question informs whether you ought to follow the thing. So in the terms of international law, my whole argument is that regardless of where the ought comes from or why there is a responsibility or a duty, right? Whether that responsibility or duty is to the international courts, or whether that responsibility or duty is to the best interest of the country, or whether that responsibility or duty is to whatever it might be, right? That responsibility or duty exists and it informs our decisions. And that decision, in my opinion, is that in general, as I argued that night, we should follow international law because, again, we have a duty to our country to do what it is in its best interest. And by following international law and keeping our word and being a trustworthy ally, it encourages other countries to trust us, to work with us, to give us good trade deals, to honor their agreements with us, right? Um, it just across the board, it has good outcomes for us, and therefore, yes, we ought follow international law.
Yeah, and I think that where I'm coming from to, I agree with everything you say there. Um, Almost because like this is where I'm gonna get into a weird morality issue, but I kind of sort of believe in like morality as a social construct kind of thing. For the very same reasons you're saying, that we ultimately what is good for us is that pragmatic approach of working with people because it helps us to do so. It's better to have all these international neighbors as our allies than our enemies. It just makes sense, and it's almost like that obligation comes. It's almost like if that makes sense that it's almost there's a moral obligation as well as
I mean, yeah,
just the
there's a moral argument to it, but I wasn't making that specific argument. But there is a moral argument to it that you can make, and I think it's compelling. I just wasn't making the moral argument. I was making a pragmatic one, which, again, I think that you do have a moral duty to your citizenry as a nation, right? You have a moral duty to the people who are under your care to do what is best for them, and I think that that informs your pragmatic decisions in many ways. But I wasn't entirely making that argument. My argument was merely one of pragmatism. I was like, it is in our best interest to obey these laws. Therefore, we ought obey these laws.
yeah. Again, like I think I agree mostly with what you were saying. It just I guess when I hear like ought like that was what was rubbing me a little bit of the wrong way. But it sounds like you agree anyway, so there's nothing really to fight about. It just I guess I'm a little autistic, so
Well, fair enough. There's a lot of those online, right? We're all a little
yeah, yeah.
autistic to some extent, so it's all good. But
And mostly like
like the whole my whole to the degree that there was any frustration in the argument. My frustration kept coming is he my opponent simply acknowledged that I was correct, like almost at the beginning. Like,
oh yeah, that
yes,
was annoying. And the fact that he kept repeating himself over and over with the same kind of argumentation is like of saying, yeah, well, we shouldn't always, but the ought still exists. I'm like, okay, but you're saying there's an ought.
eh, yeah, and so I had to do a lot of repeating myself in various ways. One of the weaknesses I have in debate is and maybe this is a weakness, maybe not. I think it is a weakness. I'm leaning towards it being something that is a flaw in my style. Is I give far too much charity and grace to the people I'm talking to. I'm actually trying to have a interesting conversation rather than just win on some technicality. And so it sometimes gets me in trouble because I'm willing to give grace where perhaps I should not give grace to an argument, right? And from a purely win lose kind of paradigm. But I don't know. I find it annoying when people are pedantic and technical, and I want to get what people are actually saying rather than trying to pin them on something that they aren't. I know they don't actually mean, right? And I don't
No,
know.
that
It
makes
gets me in
sense.
trouble.
But I mean, at one hand, I mean, you're giving me an opportunity to jump on here and talk and speak my piece, which I'm more than grateful for. Even though I'm just some rando guy who just ran to text you randomly.
But it is a call-in show.
So
Anyone can call in, right? So
I get it. It's still appreciative, especially like you know, I'm not used to this. I'd like to get used to talking to people online, so it gives me an opportunity to. But yeah, that was mainly it. It's just I wanted to talk about that one. The other thing I would just like to say, and I'll leave, is that I guess on your haters one, um, I would. I don't know why there's that idea of like freedom of speech equals freedom of consequences. That kind of came up a whole lot in that conversation. Not the debate you had, but the episode before that where you had a bunch of your haters come on.
I know what you're talking about. The one with we had this Gawk guy on. This is I forget what he refers to himself as, Zeet or something, Skeet.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
forget.
yeah. I heard it a couple times during that episode, and I kind of have to agree with you that like the I don't know, like a lot of the people who seem to think that the freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. I can't help but think that they don't understand letter of the first whole purpose of freedom of speech is not just a government issue thing. A lot of our founders, literally, I think I explained this to you as well. We're facing that same social ostracization that they seem to be saying we should do today, and I'm just like, I can't agree at all. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. From if you look at it historically, it doesn't make any sense to me if you look at the spirit of what the intentionality of the First Amendment. It doesn't make any sense, and I would love to speak to anybody who says otherwise. I guess.
Funnily enough, I recently reached out to Counterpoints, who watched that show and agrees with Doobie and agrees with the Skeet guy about their takes on freedom of speech, and he thinks that they were more correct in that than I was. And I said, okay, well, I'd love to talk to you about it, and we're trying to set up a date and a time for that. It should be interesting. But yes, I absolutely agree with you that a lot of people use this excuse that, well, I'm for freedom of speech, but, right? Like, I'm all for people speaking their mind unless you say a bad thing that I think is horrible, and then I think you should be fired from your job, right? Like, well, then you don't believe in freedom of speech, right? Like, you value something more than freedom of speech, that you are willing to subvert someone's freedom to speak in order to uphold that other value, which you might even argue is good in certain cases. So, for example, I'm not a free speech absolutist. I don't think that people should be able to put child porn on the internet, right? Without getting fired. I think if you put child porn on the internet, then you should go to jail, right?
But yeah,
Is that anti-free speech? Kinda. Kinda. But that is like a limit, a threshold where I think that, okay, you've crossed the line. I think society has you do more harm to society by allowing this than you do by stopping this, and so therefore it's okay to silence your speech in that regard. Now, that said, my limits are very clear cut, and my bar is very, 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 very high, right? A lot of people's bars are much lower. And again, I think that if you are going around, a child has said something you don't like, a child, to be clear, like, has said something you don't like, and so you're recording everything that they're saying in order to later report them to their future employees, then yes, I am very comfortable in saying that you do not believe in freedom of speech, or at
yeah, that
least
was.
you don't practice it.
I will absolutely 100% agree that that was an insane thing to say. Again, like I just when I look at like what our founders were going through, what they were escaping from. Yes, they were escaping from a country that was, a little that was
Hello?
tyrannical. I guess is the best word. The other thing, but it wasn't just the state that they were running away from what I understood. Like it was a combination of the state and church kind of working hand in hand to sort of like
Well, social
suppress people.
ostracization, right, it has real consequences. And again, the First Amendment does protect you from government actors, but the concept of free speech exists outside of that
Oh yeah, I
realm.
was just kind of giving an
Yeah.
example of like it seems to me that they were going away from a system that was using both government powers and societal powers to pressure them to for their speech. So I do not feel our founders who were facing that type of environment would only care about one or the other. They obviously would set this up to protect both.
Well, I mean, look, the thinkers at the time, like John Stuart Mill, are you familiar with his work at all?
I can look into it, sure.
Yeah, he wrote a whole treatise on the ideas of what freedom means, right? And freedom of speech in particular. And he talks about not just the tyranny of government and how it can hurt free speech, but the tyranny of the majority, the tyranny of the crowd, the mob, right? And the society, and how it can really stifle freedom of speech and people's ability to speak their mind. And he argues that while some people might say horrific things, that by having a society that enshrines the value of freedom of speech, those societies are more free and better off and more healthy. And he gives a whole argument. It's a whole treatise. You should read it.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a shot at some point.
It's older, right? Older stuff, but it's excellent, excellent. It's a foundational document,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I'll hit you up in DMs, and maybe you can link that to me at some point, or let me know the name of it again, so that way I don't
Sure.
forget it.
I want to say it's on on Liberty or on Freedom. I forget the exact title of it. I'll look it up and get it to you. But one of my I know you got to go, but thank you.
I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sorry for being a little autistic, but
You're
I
fine.
appreciate
You're
it all the
fine.
same. It's also nice to talk to a fellow veteran, so
Okay. Well, have a great day, man, and I'll talk to you later. Okay.
you as
Call
well.
in any time. Bye. But yeah, this so gang, I really encourage you guys to, if you want to understand what free speech is as a concept, to read John Stuart Mill. He invented what is called the Mill's Trident, which is a three-pronged kind of thought experiment about speech and why it is good to allow all kinds of speech. So when you make a claim, when you say something, when you have a thought or an idea that you put out into the ether, there are one of three possibilities with that thought, with that idea, with that claim. Either it is entirely true, 100% correct, in which case it's obvious why we would want this to be said. It's obviously good for society to have something that is just true to be shared with society. That's an obviously good thing. It helps everyone. We want that to be spread. The second possibility, okay? The second possibility is that it's partially true. And this is where I think most claims fall into. It's some of it's true, some of it's not true. It's a partial truth. The reason why it's good to allow discussion on this, right, and to allow this to propagate is because it allows it to be challenged, and you can kind of sift the true bits from the false bits, and you can refine it, and it really can help society in that way. The third possibility is that it is 100% incorrect. What you just said was just fucking wrong. Okay. The reason this is also good for society to be able to hear and to be allowed is because it allows people to show why this is wrong, right? Why this is incorrect. It allows it to be challenged, right? And allows people to kind of really attack it, and then we can find out why it's wrong. Why is this 100% incorrect? And that benefits society. Free speech is a technology in order to get closer to the truth. It is a system, it is a value that if we follow it, society as a whole will get closer to the truth. Okay? And that is important because reality is going to hit you in the face, regardless of whether you believe that to be true or not. Like, what's actually real is going to hit you in the face eventually. And you have to prepare for it. And this is his argument. I think it's compelling. And this is why a society that allows people to be wrong tends to do better than a society who tries to decide in advance what is right and what is wrong. And humankind has a really bad track record on litigating truth. It has a really bad track record. Societies have a really bad track record on deciding what is actually real, what is actually not. And you can see this throughout the ages. You see this in the Spanish Inquisition. The Earth is flat. The Earth isn't round, right? Until, of course, you had Copernicus challenge the heliocentric or the geocentric model and replace it with the heliocentric model. And you had Columbus and other people challenge the idea that the world was flat and you'd fall off the edges. And because they were allowed to challenge these things, we have a better picture of what the world is, right? And how the world looks and what actual reality is. And it's lead to huge benefits, right? Free speech is dangerous, to be clear. There are things that can happen, untruths that can be spread, but if we, again, value free speech as a concept, those untrue things will eventually be challenged and eventually be destroyed. When we try to cement and stop challenges, right, to ideas and stop and try to decide and to legislate what is true and what is not, we get so much wrong, and it risks cementing us into wrong things that will hold us back. And so I'm a big believer in freedom of speech. I am, yeah, and I like in calling yourself a liberal, to be clear, and then not believing in free speech or not practicing free speech or shutting down other people's free speech. It's like being a vegetarian or claiming to be a vegetarian and then eating steak. You can claim all you want that you're a vegetarian, but bro, you're munching on those burgers. You're munching on that steak, bro. You're not a vegetarian. You can vote vegetarian. You can advocate for vegetarian policies. You can say, oh, well, I think vegetarians would be better to run the government. All well and good, but you ain't no vegetarian. I see you snacking on that meat, bro. You're not a vegetarian. Much like there are many, many, many people who say they're liberal who aren't actually liberal. They say, well, I believe in these things, right? But I don't practice any of them. Cool, you vote for liberals, but you ain't a liberal. Yeah, sure, you think liberal values are great, but you aren't practicing liberal values. You're not a liberal. You're voting for liberals, but you're not a liberal. You see the difference there? I think it's clear. Okay, we got more callers. Let's bring them in. Hello, you're live.
Hello.
Hi, what you got?
Hi. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about free speech as well, which is
Go ahead.
fortuitous. So this is about the Afro Man trial that has been happening of late.
Okay, for those who do not know, which is partially me, I know you told me a little bit about it in the Discord. What the fuck is the Afro Man trial?
Okay, so Afro Man is a rapper. He sang the But Then I Got High song that people probably recognize. I was going to go to school, but then I got high.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2022, or thereabouts, they raided his house, supposedly looking for weed and kidnapping victims, and he got it all on camera. And they're digging through his crap. They break his door. They break his gate, and they end up turning his security cameras off. And in the process of them raiding his house, he of course had footage of it, and he used that footage to make music videos that were hilarious.
Okay, so he gets his house raided, right? Did they find any kidnapping videos of victims or anything like that?
They did not find any kidnapping victims, despite looking in his CD case, in his suit pockets. They didn't find any. It's pretty
no kidnapping victims. Okay,
no
so they
kidnapping
just come and they're a nuisance, and he uses the footage that he has of his house being raided in order to make music videos. Okay, what's the problem?
Okay, so they did not charge him with anything, and they did the thing where they take your cash as evidence. They took, I think, I'm gonna say $15,000.
Damn.
And they gave it back to him, but it was $400 short, according to him. And of course, he clowned on that. He made music videos about that. He also, this might be where it steps into too far territory. One of the cops had a brother who turns out to be a convicted pedophile, and he put that information on blast, right?
Damn.
But so far, no lies, right?
Fair
so Afro Man made many music videos. He made one making fun of one of the woman's appearances. He made one about one of the cops spent a lot of time looking at a slice of pound cake that was left on the table with the Great Desire. Just fun stuff, right? And then maybe a little bit more mean-spirited stuff. The cops are
Okay.
suing him, and that is the lawsuit that is the court case that is unfolding on. It's been streamed on YouTube Live for a little while.
What is the case about again?
So it's the I don't know if it's the department specifically or if it's the collection of cops suing on their own behalf, but they're suing, I believe, for defamation in regards to the videos that were made. And
Defamation.
I believe so. So the only statement that I have heard that sounds like it could actually hit defamation is that he has suggested that the person with the brother is himself also a pedophile.
Okay, so
That's the spicy bit.
I don't think that they have a case. If what you're saying is accurate, and to be clear, I haven't looked into this case, but if what you're saying is true, and that what they're suing him for defamation because he implied or said that the brother of a pedophile is also a pedophile, the bar to show that as defamation is very, very high. They'd have to be knowingly and maliciously lying, and the courts would have to prove that he's knowingly and maliciously lying about this. I don't think they have a case just from your telling of it.
Yeah. So the fun part, and this is kind of the more drama slop stuff. Of course, it's being streamed live, and that's not the only claim that they're making, right? So like they're basically holding every instance of an insult or like unfriendly phrasing as a tort or as a problem to be solved. So it is the most snowflake baby shit I have ever seen in a courtroom. The prosecutor got Afro Man on the witness stand, and that was asking him if he saw the woman crying when she was exposed to the music video of her being a lesbian. And I don't think she is a lesbian, to be clear, but what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh no,
Right.
you insulted a woman and she cried about it. Oh
Right.
no. Like,
And
look,
it's like, oh my God, it's like you got this woman to sit on the stand and squeeze a fucking tear out to get it, and they're suing Afro Man for like $1.5
this
million.
is one of the tactics that a lot of people will use to impose, like, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. They'll say things like, well, your speech hurt my feelings, and so I'm going to sue you, right? This is an antithetical. This is an attack on his free speech. It absolutely is. Like, and they're trying to use the courts and to use slap laws, like to use defamation laws, in order to try to silence people who are critical of them, people who insult them. And this is something that happens all the time. And government officials will do this. People in power will do this. Celebrities will do this. Rich people usually do this. They have the money and the means to take people to court who are saying things that they don't like. And because they are saying things that they don't like, they try to silence them or to to silence anyone from going after them by threatening lawsuits or bringing lawsuits, right? Donald Trump is famous for this, right? He's sued tons of people for insulting him, basically. And it's a tactic to get people to just shut up, right? If you come at me, if you criticize me, if you insult me, I will make you pay through the court system. And even if I lose, you still have to go to court and risk all that stress, that time, that money, because, well, I can afford to just have my lawyers fuck with you, and you can't do shit. And so I think, again, assuming you're portraying this accurately, this is absolutely an example of people abusing the court system to go after people's free speech. But it's not uncommon. This is something that happens all the time, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I will say, just to hedge a little bit, I'm not a lawyer, and
I guess he won, apparently.
He won already?
Yeah, it looks like Zero Fox is giving me a link. Let's assume I'll click on it just to make sure. Yeah, he scores a legal victory. He prevailed in court after sheriff's deputies accused him of defamation, invasion of privacy tied to footage. So the courts decided in his favor. Looks like Wick was right again, gang.
I was about to hedge and say I wasn't 100% sure if my description of the actual legal part of it was accurate, but that's very funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I just wanted to share the fun of that. The man
Appreciate it.
he's in the trial. He's got like a big afro. He's wearing like American flag sunglasses and an American
Nice.
flag suit. It is just some top tier dramedy if y'all just want
That's
something fun to watch.
That's funny. But thanks for calling in and let me know. I do appreciate it.
All right, man.
Have a great day, man. Anything else before I let you go?
Nope, that's it. Appreciate you.
Bye. Yeah, look. This is the whole idea, right? Like, to be clear, Doobie, Counterpoints, Skeet, they're all wrong. They're all wrong about what freedom of speech is and what it means. And if you disagree, it's call-ins, baby. Call in, and we'll have a discussion about this. But this is a prime example of people trying to impose consequences on people's free speech in order to chill and silence their free speech. So if you are some guy on the internet says something that you don't like, and so you call their employer to get them fired because he said something that you don't like, you are attacking their free speech. You are a threat to their free speech. You are threatening their free speech. And you can say, well, he says something so egregious that I think I value protecting society from whatever he said more than protecting his speech. And that's a position you can have. I disagree with it, except for in very, very, very specific circumstances, such as child porn and shit, right? But, bro, you are absolutely attacking their free speech, and you're saying that they should not be allowed to say that without getting fired or getting run out of their community or what have you, whatever consequence you're trying to impose. Zephyrhash for $2 says, stop purity testing liberalism. No, I'm gatekeeping liberalism. I am keeping it pure from its detractors and people who would otherwise taint it. I don't want to see, look, this is why. I have seen what's happened to American Christianity over my lifetime, how it's been turned and perverted into something that it is not, that is decidedly non-Christian, right? And this is just hasn't happened in my lifetime. This has been happening for hundreds and thousands of years, literally. But recently, even recently, in the last, I'd say 20 years, the idea of what it means to be a Christian in America has morphed and changed, right, into something that is decidedly, in my opinion, very, very un-Christian. And I think it's destroyed American Christianity in a real way. Like, I don't know if American Christianity can come back from it. I hope it can, but I don't know if it can. I don't want to see that happen with liberalism, right? I don't want to see people who claim to be liberal and claim to represent liberal values come in, wear it like a skin suit, right? And just breed illiberalism into things. I don't want to see that happen. I'm setting up the liberal camps, something like that. Let's bring on the next caller. Hello. You're live. Hello.
Oh, sorry about that. I just needed some stuff. How's my audio?
You're a little low, but maybe that's on my end. I can try to turn you up.
Okay. I did have it a little low because it was sounding really loud on my end. Just making sure.
Oh, okay. I think you're. I turned you up, so let's see how it goes. What do you got for me? What do you have to say for yourself, sir?
Right. So, I wanted to talk about touch on the recent Illinois primaries.
Go for it.
Mainly because Yeah, I wanted to touch on that on a trend speculation aspect of things because I'm thinking if things are going well on this front, at least, that it's mainly moderate deaths, even like a lot of dems that are only like beneficially captured by APAC, not so much ideologically like we see on a lot of right winger side. Then it might just be a good trend to look towards when November falls around and the midterms come around. Because
Mm.
at some point, when a lot of people that I agree with that might just be very against APEC's influence on Congress, understand that it's not even unique to either Dems or Republicans. Both sides have a lot of influence from APEC. It's just one side might have a lot more ideological capture, I think.
Well,
And that
well,
seems to me right
elaborate
now
on
the
that for me. What
Republicans.
is the difference in your mind between ideologically captured by APAC versus influenced by APAC? Where is the delineating line for you, in your opinion?
I think a lot of people kind of just go with it because it's just the general thing a lot of people are doing anyways. So like you may just benefit from being a part of something whereas you're not ideologically captured by the idea that that Zionism to a point where we need to bomb certain areas to restore the third temple is a thing. Where I see a lot of Republicans, specifically like types like Hegseth and even Ted Cruz, say we should bomb the site where this holy Muslim rock is, so then we can restore the third temple. This
So
is
I think what you're
this is
describing here.
this is more a schizo
Yeah,
fringe
yeah, yeah.
thing, like on the side of a lot of Christian and Jewish
Well,
Zionists.
I think what you're describing isn't really APAC. It's more there's this idea among certain Christian Zionists,
Yeah,
such as they are, right, who believe in the messianic rapture, the book of Revelations, and they are trying to set up a world where prophecy is fulfilled, that the abomination of desolation occurs, where the Jews will restore the temple in Israel in the Holy Land, and that the Antichrist will uh, do some shit there. I don't know the exact thing he's
yeah,
going to do. He's going to desolate it. And in order for that to happen, the temple has to be built and certain things have to be in place. I don't know all the details off the top of my head. I'd have to research
yeah.
it, right? But
No,
that's a
that's pretty
different
much.
thing than
It is
what
a different
APAC
thing.
is, right?
No,
Those are
it is a
totally
different.
different.
It is a different thing. My thing that I'm bringing up is that a lot of people on the left, like much farther left, kind of view it like one and the same. For a lot of people that are like backed by AIPAC, whether it be across the left and the right, where they kind of view them all as these militant Zionists, and a lot of them, it's like no, it's just a lot of people are a part of this kind of system going on here. It doesn't have anything to do with them being ideologically captured one way or
Well,
another for a
there's
lot of them.
look, there here's my take on the thing, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't particularly care what your for most people, I don't particularly care your stance on Israel. It's not a deal breaker to me either way. There are certain extremes you can go to on either side that would be deal breakers. So as soon as you're cheering on Hamas, I don't think you're fit for office, right?
yeah, no, absolutely.
If you're
I just
if you're trying to fulfill some prophecy by the abomination of desolation, then you probably shouldn't be in office either. But when it comes to APAC specifically, I don't have a problem with them advocating for what they want, because a lot of people will say it's a foreign influence fund. It's not. It's from American Israelis, right? People
yeah,
who are based in America who want to see specific foreign relations in regard to Israel be put into play. It's like if you had a pro-Ukrainian pack that was made up of Americans who wanted to see us be more favorable towards Ukraine, and they would promote politicians who had more favorable views towards Ukraine than others. As long as that is from Americans, then I think it's fine.
yeah. No. I get that completely. I think there is some level of influence that I think is well beyond the pale when you're
Well,
talking
sure.
90% of congressmen are being being backed by a political action committee that's mainly focused on foreign relations when many of these congressmen and many of these senators and many of these representatives are largely not interested or even part of any committees in regards to that. So I think that might be just something. It's it's a little it's a
Well,
little more
like,
out there. It's one of those.
foreign influence in the American government can be a problem.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily a
I'd
problem.
say
It
I'd say the same
depends.
thing if it was a Ukraine. I'd say the same thing if it was an American Ukrainian influence, or
Like,
especially if it was American
yeah,
Russian influence,
obviously
especially.
other countries are trying to influence our politics. Obviously, we're trying to influence other countries' politics. It's not necessarily something that we should be wary of, that we should throw a fit about. It really depends. There's threshold tests to this.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start acting in the interest of another country over American interests, that's when
Yes.
it becomes a problem to me. But like, there is very good arguments for why we should work with Israel in the Middle East, um, from
Definitely.
an American perspective that you can make, right? Um, yeah, I don't see APAC isn't an issue to me either way.
That's fine. No, that's fair. And to me it has its own issues, but it's not like a super deal breaker at this moment. It's just, yeah, I think it's something to at least keep on the back burner. But the main point I wanted to bring up was that, judging from how we're seeing the primaries go, it looks like the midterms might be the Lib Dem wash we're looking for
Yeah, I think that
coming up.
moderates are well, we knew this already, right?
Though
Moderates
I
have a
will
better
say,
chance of winning than non-moderates, and I think this
yes,
is true across the board. Even in primaries, like, it tends to be more of a mixed bag. But the Illinois primaries, well, let's just bring this up so you guys can see real quick. So Ro Khanna, I
yeah,
don't know if you guys know who he is. Um, he he put out a tweet endorsing. Here, I'll share the screen real quick with you guys.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Endorsing a bunch of candidates, right? You can see this. Illinois, get out the vote. Kat lost. Junaid
Oh, she
Ahmed
was washed. She was
lost.
absolutely washed
Yeah.
out. Like,
Dr. Thomas Fisher lost. Paul Nolly lost. These other three ran unopposed, so they won, but they didn't have anyone contesting them. Every single pick this guy made that was in a contested election, his pick lost. And
yeah,
right, like,
good.
I call it a kiss of death, right? His endorsement was like a kiss of death to these people. I don't know if it actually was, but it just shows. I don't know.
Though I will
What
say
you
to
were
the
advocating for is just out of touch with the electorate.
yeah,
It is.
what I will say though, there is a real worry about if some of these moderates are just people hiding their power levels, because
Well,
there's a
there's
real
always
worry
that
with
worry.
there is always going to be that real worry. I mean, looking at Virginia with Spanberger and Jones, I understand the worry there. I think it might be a problem that might just be unique to some places like Washington and maybe Virginia. I hope it's not a widespread issue. Maybe it's we're seeing the last throes of woke here and there, or like we see in New York. But if it's not going above the state level, if it's not going above like mayoral seats, or even some of these um and even some of these Senate seats, since they're only running uncontested, I don't see the issue of woke and progressive politics coming back with a vengeance in the U.S. It just seems more like more people are like, yeah, we're sick of this. We want more
Yeah,
moderates back.
I think that there's always going to be some of that, but I think it's on the downswing. But we'll see.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you for
we
calling in,
could
man. I do
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
you
no
calling
worries.
in and talking to me, and I'll talk to you later. Okay,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah, take care.
Bye. People are saying, "Are you pro APAC?" I'm APAC neutral. I'm not pro or anti APAC. APAC's a lobbyist, and when I agree with them, I'll agree with them. When I disagree with them, I'll disagree with them. Um, I don't know. Like, DT Keys says, "I guess I see why Wick loves APAC funding. It's helping him. I'm not getting any funding from APAC. $0 have gone to me that I know of, at least, from APAC. Maybe one of you super chatters is secretly an APAC spy. I don't know, right? But as far as I know, they've never paid me a cent. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, again, I'm just neutral on it. APAC sometimes is something I'm like, oh yeah, they're right here, and sometimes they're wrong, and I don't know what else to tell you about it. I don't know what else to tell you about it. Am I pro or against PAX? I'm neutral on PAX in general. PAX can be a great way for people to organize and pay, right? To like, if I and a bunch of buddies really cared about an issue, so say me and my community were like, you know what, we really care about free speech, so we're going to pool our resources, we're going to pool our money together, and we're going to support candidates and put out advertisements for candidates and things that we think support free speech best. Is there anything wrong with me doing that? Is there anything sinister or bad or unethical about me doing that? About me and a bunch of buddies getting together, pooling our resources, and saying, I want to support every candidate who is going to protect free speech, and I'm going to oppose every candidate that I think is bad for free speech. What is dark money? Like, what do you mean by dark money? Why don't you just call in instead of us doing the I chat at you and then you chat at me from the typing, and why can't we just have a conversation? Call in. Money you can't trace. You mean like my super chats? Like, I don't know where the money came from, really. I know the guy who gave me it, but how do I know that there's not a shadowy group in the shadows paying him to pay me? I don't. There's no way I could track that either. I have no way of tracing that money. It's dark money, gang. I'm paid by dark money because I get super chats. I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, call in and we'll talk. But I'm going to get to the next caller. Hello, you're live.
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes. What do you have? What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about like the developments in Europe, where France is taking on the USA's role with the nuclear umbrella. Have you heard about it in the news?
I've heard a little bit, but I don't know a lot of the details. I know that they are Europe specifically is trying to disconnect from American protection. Like, the American nuclear umbrella protected Europe and the West from nuclear strikes. They were protected under our kind of remit. But I know that the European Union has been trying to move away from that. I don't know the details, so I couldn't speak to that.
I think it's an interesting development because the European Union has the goal, like since Russia invaded Ukraine, to become independent,
Yes,
to have their own army, have their own military capabilities.
it's, to
And
be clear, a good goal. So I
not
approve
good for
of
the
that.
USA.
Huh?
Not good for the USA because they have a lot of leverage, a lot of influence.
Look, I think that yes, that USA does lose the ability to influence European politics because they have less, like there's less reliance there. But
Mhm.
we also gain the ability to sell the European Union a lot of our military tech.
Don't.
Well, you
It,
don't
you,
like you
you,
disagree
you're,
with that?
I partly agree.
Partly, we sell them a lot of F-18s, F-35s, all that
Yeah,
shit, right?
but after Trump, there's also the sentiment to buy local, to ditch American
There is that
producers.
movement as well because they want to set up their own. They don't want to be reliant on us selling us.
Yes.
Selling them
So,
our stuff.
and
Yeah, that
also
happens.
since I don't know, it was like a year ago. So Trump said he could deactivate like the new F-35s or something. Like he threatened some country to deactivate them, I think.
Yeah.
So like France, or for example, is
It's hurt our
non-reliant.
sales. It has.
Yes, and also Denmark cancelled after the Greenland stuff. They cancelled
Yep. They canceled
the
a lot of
jets,
contracts with us for
and
our tech and stuff. Absolutely.
I mean there's lobbying, but the public sentiment is that you don't buy American if you can't buy in the European Union. It comes with a backlash.
Yeah.
I'd
One
say.
of the this goes back to the ought we obey international law, right? Ought we follow international law? One of the benefits of following international law and being involved with in keeping our trade deals and being honest in our dealings is that our allies want to trade with us more and we get more allies. But when we don't do that, when we fail to follow that hot, right? It leads to situations like this where we lose. We lose leverage, we lose money, we lose power, we lose influence, and all these things hurt America. So you're exactly right that.
I mean,
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, continue.
But you're exactly right in that France looking to become, and European Union in general, looking to become more independent. One of the bad things about that is that they don't want to, they want to become independent so they can tell us to fuck off. Now, if they wanted to become independent so that they could have a better role in protecting themselves and things like that, I think that would be a great thing. I think regardless of why they're doing it, them getting a standing army, getting a better industry in place where they can protect themselves is a good thing overall, just for the world. But when it comes to their relationship with America, right, with the U.S., I think that a lot of the reasons they're doing it is to tell us to fuck off. And I don't blame them because we have proven to be an untrustworthy ally, especially in the last 5 years. Or the last little bit, I should say. Not 5 years. 5 years is too long. $5 from J. Ray to say woke and lefty movements will never fully go away as long as the Dem voter is more left than the center. That's why primaries can be more contentious. True.
Can I say something?
Of course. You're calling in, man. What do you got?
I think this trend is going to continue. It's not stopping because of Trump. I think after that, even though there will be a Democratic president and so on, this trend is not going to stop. It's going to continue.
I do agree with you, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think that they can't worry that another Trump or Trump-like guy will get office in 20 years from now and just do the same thing that Trump did and just tear up our agreements, withdraw from alliances, withdraw and threaten to withdraw from even NATO itself. That's crazy, right? And just shit on all over, right? Shit all over the place and be just people we can't trust. So I think Trump has done generational damage to the United States' image. Generational damage. So even if we get Democrats in power for the next 40 years, it's going to take about 40 years to clean up this mess. You're correct.
I don't think it's the relationship is never. It's going to be never this close again. I think between Europe and
I hope
the
you're
US.
wrong.
I mean, I'm living in Europe. I
Mhm.
can tell you about the sentiment.
Yeah, but sentiments change, and I hope it does change over time, and that we can once again have a special relationship with Europe.
you're hopeful, but
Yeah.
this
Like, I hope
anti
that's the case.
there's a big anti-American sentiment always. There was always since the Second World War in the like lefty space, in the more
Lefties are terrible.
bourgeois setting. You know what I mean? Like
The bougies.
yeah, they have a anti-American mindset, and this anti-American mindset is coming through also like in the, I don't know what you call it, like the normal working class people, like the normal workers are getting this mindset because the prices are going up, they feel threatened, they feel unsafe.
Yeah,
They have
because
this,
Trump is threatening them, to be clear. Trump is hurting them, and he wants to
yes,
hurt
and
them.
this is pushing anti-American sentiment, and when
so it
Europe
makes perfect
awakes,
sense
it's
that
going
this
to
is-
be bad, I think, for the
Yes.
US because you have like another player, another guy at the table. I think it's like
it's moved from a unipolar world to a multipolar world, and that is
yes,
going to
and
be
it's
bad.
not going to be good for the US, I think, but it's going to be good for Europe.
I don't know. In
I
some
think
ways,
it's
yes.
I think it's like India at the moment. They have huge potential, but they're like at the kids' table right now.
I don't. There's a lot of what you're saying I do agree with, right? But I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a few disagreements we have. Like, I don't know if
Then
overall
please elaborate.
a multipolar world is going to be good for anyone, let alone Europe. But I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be.
Like there's this feeling that the EU is like a vassal of the US and super dependent on everything, and they don't come up with new stuff. They just mirror the US, and that's a big talking point, like in the EU elections and also in general. So this there's a cry for self-sufficiency, as a non-reliance on other states, non-reliance on the US, and so it's getting bigger. That's what I'm saying, and it's good for the people because they want to rule over themselves.
But the problem is with that, right? Is that we are stronger together, right? And I know that's kind of cliche to say, but the U.S. is stronger for having a close relationship with Europe, and Europe is stronger for having a close relationship with the United States in normal times.
The relationship, I think it's going to be, we share the same values. It's not like changing overnight, but I do think it's not going to be this close. And I think, have you heard about the tax plan from the EU targeting like IT and tech companies?
I don't know the details on that at all. No.
So, like most companies have a headquarters in Ireland because there's like low income tax and so on.
Oh, cereal for every meal is rating a party with 341. 341, that's a lot of y'all. Welcome to the show. Cereal for every meal. We're talking Collins, we're talking Dune, we're talking politics, we're talking all sorts of things. Thanks for coming in here. I'm glad to see you guys. What brings you to the show today? I too what's your guys' favorite cereal, if you had to guess? Or I guess you don't have to guess. Are we talking Reese's peanut butter cups? Like, the Reese's Puffs, I think they're called? Do you like Cinnamon Toast Crunch? I am a Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy. Okay. Like, that's my cereal of choice. Yeah. Well, thanks, Cereal for Every Meal. Says, hi, hope the stream is going well. I watch it periodically and I'm a fan. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming by. I do appreciate you. We got a great show coming up tomorrow. Today's just call-ins. So if you guys want to call in, you're more than welcome. Yeah, tomorrow's we're talking about liberalism and all that. But anyway, Sugar Smacks, that's a good one. That's with the frog guy, right? The Smacks, am I thinking the right cereal here? Honey Bunches of Oats, those are good. Those are good. Yeah, the frog guy, the smacks, yes. Some sugary treats. Grape nuts. I'm seeing in YouTube says grape nuts. I'm not, grape nuts isn't my thing, man. It's really not. I don't know. It just doesn't hit me. Raisin Bran. I like Raisin Bran a lot. Sugar Smacks is doobie. Maybe. Cheerios. Well, Cheerios is a classic. What about you, man? What's your favorite cereal? Talking to you, buddy. The other guy on the screen.
Oh, I don't eat cereal.
You don't
But,
eat cereal?
No, I skip breakfast entirely.
Well, away with you then. No cereal. What are we talking about here? No, it's it is what it is. No cereal. No wonder he's a doomer. True. But yeah, so our relationship with Europe is undergoing a lot of tension because of how America, in the Trump administration specifically, is treating Europe and acting towards Europe. With the Iran war going on, and Trump has called on allies to help keep the Strait of Hormuz clear. A lot of our allies, France and etc., have basically told us to fuck off because of how we've treated them and how we've handled ourselves around them and how we really haven't kept our word when it comes to our treaties, when it comes to our alliances, when it comes to our trade agreements, how we are tariffing everything right now. So this is one of the downsides to isolationism, right? To trying to go it alone. Yes, America is very, very strong as a country. I would never deny that. But we are stronger when we work with allies, when we work with our foreign partners, right? In Europe and elsewhere. It just makes us better. It makes us stronger. It makes us wealthier. It makes us more protected. All these things are true. Grant Withers says, we didn't keep our obligations? Hilarious. We pay out the nose. We have put so many tariffs on Europe and just basically global tariffs everywhere. How are they going to trust us? We've tore up these trade agreements. It's crazy. Do we keep some obligations? Yes, but a lot of them we haven't. We've withdrawn from about 66 treaties in the last year. That's a lot. That's a lot. And then also, and this is a little bit of a less of a serious thing, but we talk a lot of shit. And if you have someone coming around talking shit about you day after day after day, saying you don't pay your fair share, you're reliant on America, right? Oh, you're nothing without us. And then that same guy who's been talking shit on you the whole time is like, well, actually, could I use your help for this? You tell them to fuck off. Because of course you do. A.K.A. Batozai says, COVID 2.0, anyone, we will keep the vaccines this time? Oh, are you saying that if they don't give us what we want, we're going to withhold COVID vaccines from them? That would be not in our interest to do. Getting everyone vaccinated helped keep us all less sick, right? And so sharing our vaccines with our allies in other countries, like even our enemies in Russia and China and things like that, that was just good for the world. X Mikey gifting a tier 1 sub to Cereal for Every Meal. Thank you. Grant Withers says they literally don't pay their fair share. If you're talking about NATO, some of them don't. Some of them pay more than their fair share. I haven't looked at the breakdown in a minute, but we can pull it up if you like. So what NATO is the agreement we have is every country has to spend so much of their GDP as a percentage on defense. So I think the target number is 2% for most countries. So you have to spend at least 2% of your GDP on defense. And that defense, right, will protect all the other countries. So if someone like invades Poland again, all the NATO members would band together and protect Poland from being attacked. NATO is the most successful defense alliance in the history of the world. Since its founding, no, zero, none, zilch NATO countries have ever been invaded. None of them have. Now, some NATO countries do not fulfill their obligation to this 2% number for various reasons. And you can condemn them for that. But there are many who do. There are many who do. There are many who go above and beyond the 2% required. I think it's 2%. I'm pretty sure it's 2%. Concluding postscript says, if Russia invaded Estonia, we don't know if Trump's America would honor the obligations. Well, that's one of Putin's strategies, right? One of the things that Putin is trying to do right now is he wants to test and see if America will actually honor an Article 5 declaration. So, again, in NATO, if a country declares Article 5, that's them calling for aid from the other NATO members to come and protect them militarily. So this would trigger if Poland got attacked, if Estonia got attacked, if Finland, I think Finland's a member of NATO now, if any of these countries got attacked by Russia or by China or by another adversary, they would call for an Article 5 declaration, and everyone would come in. America, France, Britain, all of them would come in and protect them. Trump has made certain statements that call into doubt whether or not he would honor an Article 5 declaration of NATO, right? And one of the things that Putin is trying to see, and he wants to kind of test, is he wants to like soft test to see if we would. And if we wouldn't, then hallelujah, he's gonna break the alliance. Because that would destroy NATO, to be clear. If an Article 5 was called, and then America did not honor the Article 5 calling, like our obligations under Article 5, it would break NATO. It would be, NATO would cease to exist as a functioning entity, right? In all practical senses. David Siski says, you could argue Putin invading Ukraine incentivized Europe to invest more in NATO. Yes, it absolutely did. Putin's invasion of Ukraine was a huge strategic blunder in a lot of ways. It revealed him to be a paper tiger, Russia to be a paper tiger. Like, they thought they were going to go in, and in 3 days, they were going to take Ukraine. They were going to take all the things that they wanted out of it, install a puppet government, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That it was going to be very, very easy. They were wrong. They were spectacularly wrong. And especially in the last couple months, Ukraine has started making gains again, right? And it's, look, I don't want to give anyone like a false impression here. It's still a really, really, absolutely tough fight. I have no idea who's going to win in the end between Ukraine and Putin, right? I have no idea. But it's really draining a lot of Russia's resources. Russia has lost a lot of their ability to project power. One of the reasons that Syria fell is because they couldn't protect it anymore because they were tied up in Ukraine. It's been an albatross around their neck. It's really holding them down. And Putin's kind of invested his pride in this too, right? And it's really showed him to be kind of a fool. Brave Beat says, isn't NATO less of an alliance of equals and more of the U.S. protecting the Western world? I mean, U.S. is the major force behind NATO, yes. But the thing is we gain, and I'm talking about the U.S. here, gains a lot of benefit for having these allies. Like, one of the reasons that the U.S. is able to project force as far as it is and as well as it does is because we have bases all across Europe and in all sorts of countries, even outside of NATO, that we can refuel at, that we can gather forces at, that we can set up defenses at, that we can act as like forward operating bases in a lot of ways. We can refuel, rearm, resupply, redeploy. This allows us to strike from all over and in a reasonable time frame. It gives us the ability to influence events around the world, and to have our military be pretty much anywhere really, really quickly. So yes, does NATO rely on the U.S.? Absolutely it does. But we get a lot of benefit out of it. We get a lot of benefit out of that. No con Mike. Now that Trump is a neocon, he should probably go ahead and give Ukraine the proper assistance to end Putin's invasion, and maybe Putin as well. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Iran. My worry about Iran is we're going to get bogged down there too. I don't want to get bogged down there. Look, you can sell me on Iran, right? As a thing we should do. I think that there are reasons and ways to go into Iran, or we could go into Iran and it would work. I don't know if we're doing this, right? I don't know if the way and the reason, I don't trust Trump to do it correctly. And I don't think that he's being honest with us about the imminence of the threat that he says that they pose. I think he's lying about that. His one of his guys just resigned and basically said he was lying about that, didn't he? I don't have the thing up on the top of my head, right? America Blursid PLD. You keep calling me a fake lib. Are you calling me a fake lib? Why are you calling me a fake lib? What is your evidence that I am a fake lib? Just really curious. And it's a call-in show, so call in. Jaeger, I don't know how you say your name, buddy. Says, I'd say it's more justified if they were actually close to enriching uranium. Otherwise, no. Yeah, and that I just don't have the information to tell you whether or not they actually were or not, right? Because Iran with a nuclear weapon is just unacceptable. I do agree with that. But were they close to enriching enough to have a nuclear weapon? I don't know. You'd have to ask the people who actually had the information. And I don't have that information. America Blur says the war, even though we know you would go into war any time, it helps America or something to that effect is what you said. Oh, well. Yes, liberals are not pacifists. Do you know the Revolutionary War was a liberal undertaking? It was war, gang. We went to war. We did war stuff. Yes, liberals go to war. Liberals fight for what's right. Liberals ain't pacifists. So, now that you saw that was incorrect, let's try your second one. It says, a war on drugs. You still don't have the proper positions on that, I'm sure. I'm against the war on drugs. I don't know if that's a proper position. I think that the war on drugs has been a failure. Yeah. I don't support the war on drugs. What does that mean that it's been a failure? That we have been unable to stop the production and sale of drugs, and I think that trying to do so, it was anti-freedom, right? Like, we were never going to be able to do that. Look, I think that there is perfectly good reasons to keep things like heroin illegal. But, for example, going to actual war where we do kinetic activities against drug runners, is a waste of resources. America, you can call in if you want to have this conversation, but you don't. And I just want to be clear why you're not calling in. Because you're full of shit, right? And any kind of pushback on anything you say is going to your house of cards that you're building, these pack of lies, are going to be shown to be a pack of lies. So if you call in and if you face any sort of pushback against me, right, you're going to fail. You're going to struggle, you're going to flounder, and you're going to be exposed. And so that is why you're not calling in, just to be clear. Because you were wrong about interventionary wars, right? That was false, what you said. You're wrong on the war on drugs, and I showed why here. Do you got a third thing you want to try? Now that you failed on the first two? You want to go for a hat trick? Okay. Favorite ice cream flavor? Mint chocolate chip. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? No Cal Mike says John Ossoff cornering Tulsi Gabbard today. Well, let's look. Let's see what we got here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's 8 minutes long. Do you got something shorter for me? Do you got a timestamp? 8 minutes is a long time, man. And we're not gonna watch the whole 8-minute thing. What makes you like mint? I don't know. I just like the taste of it. I like the chocolate and the mint together. I don't like just mint. Mint alone probably wouldn't do it for me. But the chocolate combined with the mint, yummy, delicious. It's a staple. I don't know what to tell you. Thin mints, those are pretty good. If we're going favorite Girl Scout cookie, the Samoas. Are they still called that? The snick, like they got a hole in the middle, and they have the chocolate icing, and you know what I'm talking about? Maybe not. I don't know. No, Cal Mike, give me a timestamp, and we'll watch it. The Pacific Islander cookie now? Maybe. Caramel Delights, yes! Yes, Mikey. Yes, that's what they're called now. But they were called the Samoans for a while. But then the woke happened. $5 from My Listening Library YouTube to say, watch it. If I remember right, she says they weren't a threat to build back up, but said that it's the president's decision on what to consider them. Oh, you know what? We will try it, and if I get bored of it, we're going to switch off. Give me a second. Let me turn it to 1.5 speed, and we'll give it a listen. How's that? Let me adjust so you guys can see it a little better. I don't need to see any of that. That's close enough. We'll fucking watch it.
Thank you all for being here. Before I ask you a few questions, I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the president that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier, in which the president of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings, to his political donors, featuring a photo of the president at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace.
That is pretty gross, I think. Using, I guess, photos of dead Americans killed in Iran in order to raise some money for your political cause. Ooh, skeevy. I don't like it, gang. I don't like it a lot. I don't like it at all, okay? I don't like it at all. Skees me out. So if that's an accurate email, that's gross. And Trump has this problem where he does this all the time, is he'll try to kind of sell access and say, if you donate X amount of money, you get access to me. And I know that politicians do this to some extent, right, across the board. But Trump is especially kind of sinister about it. You guys remember his little scheme that he did with the crypto stuff, where his top 50 crypto donors got a special dinner with him? Yes, Yiger. The crypto bros. Yeah, you typed it as soon as I said it. It's crazy. Well, let's keep watching.
Now, Director Gabbard, I'd like to reground this in your core responsibilities. Under the law, you are responsible for providing national intelligence to the president, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats,
That's right.
correct? And that opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
You guys remember that too? When, I think in June last year, they had the 12-day war where we bunker busted several nuclear sites. And they went on TV, they went on the news, they said, we've destroyed, well, obliterated, I think is the word they used, obliterated their nuclear program. It ceased to exist. They also would attack anyone who suggested otherwise. They called it fake news. If you said that the strikes against Iran in June were not entirely successful, if it missed a little bit, if it didn't impact the program that much, they said you were lying. They called you a liar for doing that. It was a big to-do. I remember having panels on it, right, where we talk about it and things like that. And that's what people would argue. It's like, of course, we were super successful. We obliterated their nuclear program, all that.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of...
That's a very sneaky answer to that question. So Asif here is doing a great job, in my opinion, right? He mentions the intelligence assessment that was reported by DNI Gabbard there, right? Director of National Intelligence. That's what DNI means, right? I don't like to use acronyms without telling you guys what it means. Who reported at the time that we had obliterated their nuclear program, that their nuclear program was kaput. It was done. It was gonzo. Asif sets that up and sets the stage to say, this is what you said then. And then he asks very directly, and he points to the statement that justified us going to war in Iran now. And the justification was that there was an imminent threat, an imminent nuclear threat from Iran. And he asks directly if that was the case, that if the intelligence community shows an imminent nuclear threat from Iran. And Gabbard does this weasel answer of, well, we know they still intended to rebuild it, right? Which is not the same as having an imminent threat. But let's keep going.
Of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
And
This
he
is the
made that
worldwide...
The only person who can determine whether there is or is not an imminent threat is the president. That's just not true. The president gets a final call, perhaps, on whether we should strike a site or whatever. But we have a whole organization, right? Several organizations, actually, dedicated to trying to assess foreign threats, right? Who make determinations on whether or not a foreign threat is serious and how serious it is, how imminent it is, and we do a very good job at this. It's not a perfect job. We've had mistakes in the past, right? But we do a very good job at this, right? As a country. The idea that the president's the only one that can determine this is just not true. It's just factually incorrect. Now, the president might get the final say on what we do about it, right? And I can imagine scenarios where that would be the case, where there's an imminent threat, we have to decide whether or not we're going to go in, how serious we're going to take this, etc. What should we do about this imminent threat? The president makes a final call because this call needs to be made immediately. There's not enough time to convene Congress, and we have to decide right away what we're going to do about it. And the president has the ability to make that final call. I can imagine that scenario. That makes sense to me. But that's not what's being asked here, and that's not what's being said, right? And so it just frustrates me how just wrong these people are. Anyway.
This is the Worldwide Threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information that he receives.
She keeps saying that, but that's the opposite of true. When you're gathering intelligence, you compile intelligence, it goes through a whole bunch of sources, you make reports, you write reports, and then you determine in your assessment, right, that you are reporting on to the people who are making decisions and saying, this is imminent, this is credible, this is the level of threat we're facing, all these things, right? Your job as a member of the intelligence community is to make these determinations. What your job is not is what do we do about it, right? That's a separate question. But when you're asking who determines what is an imminent threat or not, the intelligence community helps to make that determination. It makes that determination. And when the people who are in charge of making the decisions ask you, do you think that this threat is imminent or not? And that is a question they absolutely will ask you. And they absolutely should ask you. You will say yes, or you will say no, or you will say, we think so, it is likely because X, Y, and Z, and it's unlikely because A, B, and C, right? You will give them a whole report, but you will give them your opinion in this report, right? You will say, because of the evidence, this is the evidence in our professional opinion. We think it's imminent. We think it's imminent because of these reasons. And here are the possible actions that we suggest you take, right? And then the executive will, or whoever's making the decisions, will decide whether or not to follow your guidance, whether or not they believe you, right? Sometimes there are conflicting reports, right? We have multiple agencies, multiple people gathering intelligence. They can come to different conclusions. That happens. And these reports are put in front of these people's desks. They are walked through it. They decide which they find more credible and which more they find less credible, and which ones they want to act on and which ones they don't want to act on, and then they decide how to act on it, right? It's a whole process. But to reduce it to say the president's the only one that can determine whether it's a threat imminent or not is just factually incorrect. It shows a deep ignorance on how these decisions are made and how this process works. And to be clear, this is our Director of National Intelligence spewing out this bullshit. And it's bullshit.
Precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the Worldwide Threats hearing, where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement.
So she knows this. She knows this. She knows she is making an assessment. And that's her job to do. I don't know. It's just the dishonesty bothers me.
And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the
It is
question.
the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely.
intelligence that he is
You're here-
provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me
Which is definitionally taking political consideration into account. Right? She knows that she cannot answer the question honestly. She just can't. Because if she were to do so, it would contradict the White House's statement. And if she were to publicly contradict the White House's statement like this, right, in this setting, oh boy, whole bunch of problems for the administration, and she's probably going to get fired, right? She'd absolutely lose her job. She would be ousted from her position. She knows this. She's decided to sacrifice her integrity for job security, and she should be condemned for that. That is a condemnable, cowardly action.
ask you about your presence in Fulton County on January 28th of this year. You were present at the FBI's raid on the Fulton County Elections Office on January 28th, correct?
I was present for part of the FBI exercising a warrant approved by a municipal judge.
Yes, and the
obtain
FBI was there executing
investigation.
that warrant to seize ballots and materials associated with the 2020 election, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that members of this committee have already opened inquiries into your election-related activities?
Yes.
And are you aware that your general counsel and deputy general counsel have already provided testimony to this committee regarding those activities?
Yes.
On February 2nd, you sent a letter to Senator Warner regarding your presence at the raid. Was that letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid.
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president's administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it your
There's a bit of a subject change here, and I don't know as much about the Fulton County stuff. So I have. We'll see where it goes. I'm curious where he's taking it.
role
to
to
thank
oversee?
the FBI agents who were conducting
Is it
this
your
warrant.
role to oversee the execution of criminal warrants?
It is my role, based on statute that Congress has passed, to have oversight over election security, to include counterintelligence.
But you said
to
you
include
oversaw the raid, correct? You just testified you oversaw the raid?
portions of it.
Okay. Did you handle any ballots or election-related materials?
No.
You were inside an FBI evidence truck, correct? You were photographed inside an FBI
It
evidence
was an
truck.
empty truck, yes.
The president stated, quote, you looked at
Senator's time
votes
is
that
expired.
wanted to be checked out.
The
Is that
senator's
accurate?
time is expired.
Did you look at votes as the president
Senator
stated?
Ossoff, your time is expired.
You respond
can
for the
have her.
record?
No, she cannot respond
No,
because
for the record. Will the director please respond for the record to that question is my
I'm happy to
question.
respond to questions for the record.
Support journalism.
Okay. Interesting. The Fulton County stuff I don't know as much about. I haven't really. I know it's kind of sketchy, but I don't know too much about it. But yeah, the answers to the Iran stuff were just bullshit. It was just dodging the question, refusing to address the points, refusing to actually kind of grapple with what he was saying. Ossoff was claiming that the White House was either lying then or lying now. And the reason that Tulsi Gabbard, DNI Director of National Intelligence Gabbard, could not answer that question is because to do so honestly would show the White House to be lying. And that is what they do. They lie to you. They're lying to you now. They're lying to you constantly, all the time. They lie about the ICE stuff. They lie about Iran. You just simply cannot trust them. And this isn't just in the way that you should probably not trust any government official ever, right? Like there should be a level of skepticism that you have towards any public official statement from any government source, right? You should have a healthy level of skepticism, even under a Democratic administration, right? From anything that you're being told. I am claiming, and I think the evidence backs this up, that you should simply assume that what you are hearing from people like Gabbard, people like Trump, people like anyone in this administration, basically, Kristi Noem until recently, that they're lying to you. That they're simply lying to you. Zephyr Hash for $5 says, the imminent threat was that they thought about buying a digger for mining uranium and creating a science program for children? I don't know, maybe. Zero Fox says, I can grant her the charity that is what she means by it. It's still a dodge, though. I can't grant her that charity, though. I can't. I've granted charity in the past, and it turns out that they were lying. At what point, like, I'm just curious, Zerofox, at what point do you stop granting them charity like this? There has to be a point, right? There has to be a point where you say, I've given you enough charity. I'm not going to give you any more charity. You've lost that privilege. And I'm just curious what that point is. Zerofox says, strategic ambiguity, anything we know, the opposition knows. What value do you think there is in dodging that question from the context of strategic ambiguity? What issues would come into play if Iran knew that the White House was lying about their nuclear program? Because they already know, to be clear, right? Whatever the answer is, they already know. They already know the answer because they're the ones who are either trying to... They know how imminent their threat was. They know how close they were to a nuclear weapon. They know. So I'm curious what, like, if she had just answered the question openly and honestly, how would that either help or hurt the Iranian war effort? Zerofax says, well, at the time after the obliteration, there were meetings after. In what sense? What do you mean? I guess I'm asking. Third, 1234 says, phew, saw the still image of Tulsi. She in trouble? Is she? I don't know. I think the whole administration's in trouble, but to various degrees, right? Zerofox says, so if we did not obliterate the facilities but said we did, it could give Iran a way out in negotiations? I guess I'm struggling to see how, but maybe it's just a lack of imagination on my part, or maybe if I thought about it more, I could see an obvious way it would be true, but I don't at the current time. But again, it could be just because it's late and I'm about to end the stream. Gang. We have gone over all sorts of things today. We went over Dune, okay? We went over Illinois' primary results. We went over the Tulsi Gabbard testimony. It's been great. We had some callers. We talked about free speech. It's a great discussion. And I'm looking forward to when Counterpoints can set up a debate between us on liberalism and free speech. I'd love to have it. I'm looking forward for him to give me some options for days that we can have that discussion. I would love to have it. What do we got coming up? Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Hutch. We're going to have Ryan Getty, who's been making some banger YouTube videos, okay? Blowing up. He's going to be on my stream. We're going to have Dev on the stream. We're going to have Sid, great guy, Canadian, but don't hold that against him, right? We're going to have Irrelevant, and we're going to have Stormwolf, and they're all going to be talking about when is it okay, to what extent is it okay to go outside the system and or act illiberally in order to protect liberalism. What actions are justified that might be bad in other contexts to protect liberalism from enemies like MAGA and things like that? One of the conversations that was had recently between Hutch and Josiah is a debate on if, when the Democrats gain power, should they use the FCC as Trump is using the FCC to go after our political rivals and enemies? Should we use the FCC to crack down on talk radio on the right in a way that the Brendan Carr, the current FCC director under Trump, is going after Democrats. Josiah says, yes, that's perfectly acceptable. Hutch says, no, we do not act illiberally because our enemies are acting liberally. And that is kind of the crux of the question of the debate, right? Yeah, Destiny said to make up charges. Yeah, this is a discussion that Hutch has had with Destiny as well. It's a question, and we're going to talk about it. Personally, I'm on Team Hutch for this one, gang. Okay. I'm on Team Hutch. I think that Hutch is correct, that we cannot act like our enemies, that we lose the game, basically. Liberalism loses if we have to act illiberal in order to protect liberalism. But we're going to discuss that tomorrow. Great debate lineup. It should be fun. But yes. America, you're like spamming my chat, right? You've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 messages in the last, 30 seconds? 14 messages now. You could just call in, bro. Why spam my chat like this? I mean, you're just embarrassing yourself. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Have a great night.